Somebody passes by. Good. In addition, to this. No. So we'll take her out, go back. This one. Did you go to bed free? Yeah. Welcome everyone to our special meeting, Tuesday, April 2026. Would you move the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. We have one.
Yes, we do.
Item on agenda is consideration and adoption of an amended sewer bond ordinance.
We have Sheridan and then also Stephanie Bonnie, who is the bond counsel that are on the call. So if you do have questions, this is the ordinance that you guys passed on Monday. When they took it, or when there were further discussion with the bond bank, they decided, or they informed us, I guess, and Stephanie and Sheridan can maybe speak to this a little bit better, but that the original principal amount of the bonds, originally in the first ordinance was to not exceed $9 million. And the bond bank came back and said that they would want that to be $9.25 million. And so Sheridan and Stephanie, do you want to add anything to that?
Just to clarify that this is just to do the same objective the city wants, to be able to refund its bond. But based on the cost of the interest and everything else, there was just a miscommunication as to what that amount would be in order to get everything paid off and pay the cost of issuance that we just didn't catch a little bit earlier. So I apologize for that. We just need a little bit more room because as we know, we won't know exactly what the interest cost is or what the total amount will be in order to get everything paid off. And we just need a little bit of extra cushion in the event that we need some additional funds to make sure we do get those bonds paid in full.
Members of the city council, having been furnished a copy of the proposed ordinance 2026-4 and being fully apprised of the content and purpose of said ordinance, I hereby move that the provisions of Idaho Code Section 50-902, which require that said ordinance be read on 3 different days, 2 readings by title only, and 1 reading which shall be in full, be dispensed with, and that said ordinance be passed upon 1 reading by title only. And I request a roll call vote.
Second. Yeah, we have a motion second, roll call. Harlan? Yes. Brett? Yes. Ryan? Yes. And Marla?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, and then I'll make a motion to adopt the amended sewer bond ordinance from 9 million to 9.2 million.
9.25.
Sorry, 9.25.
Second. Second. Do we need a roll call now? Yeah, the whole, Marla?
Yes.
Ryan? Yes. Brett? Yes. And Marla? Yes. An ordinance of the city of Buell, Twin Falls, Idaho, Twin Falls County, Idaho, amending ordinance number 2026-03 to provide for the issuance of a sewer revenue refunding bond, series 2026, in a principal amount not to exceed $9,250,000, provided for related matters and providing an effective date. Whereas the city of Buell, Twin Falls County, Idaho, the city is a municipal corporation duly organized and operating under the pursuant to the laws of the state of Idaho, and whereas the city adopted ordinance 202-03 on March 23rd, 2025, authorizing the sale of a sewer revenue refunding bond in a principal amount not to exceed $9 million And whereas the city has determined that in order to refund its series 2015 sewer revenue bond, the principal amount needs to be amended to $9,250,000. Now therefore, it be ordained by the mayor and city and council of the city of Buell, Twin Falls County, Idaho as follows. That ordinance 2026-03 shall be amended as follows. Section 3, the bond authorized call and redemption of series 2025 or 2015 bond. The original principal amount of the bond provided the original principal amount of the bond does not exceed the amount of $9,250,000. The loan agreement substantially in the form annexed hereto as Exhibit B is hereby approved. The mayor and city clerk for such officers such officers designated are hereby authorized and directed on behalf of the city to execute and attest respectively and to deliver the loan agreement, provided however that the principal amount set forth in the loan agreement shall not exceed $9,250,000 and the true interest cost shall not exceed 6%.
Thank you guys for being here.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, the second item on our agenda is a discussion of the parking ordinance. Discuss away.
So I think maybe a 24-hour for loading and unloading would be adequate. You know, I think 24 hours would be an adequate amount of time to unload and load your trailer, is what I think. Yeah.
Is there a way that, I know, I agree that there needs to be some time to load and unload, I just worry that. Especially when school, gets in, you know, maybe have them leave by 7 AM, that way kids can get to school safely. I don't really know how to do that with the 24 hours, but, I think that would be a safety measure, that would be important.
Yeah, I just think camping here's the weekend without.
Sure, yeah.
It's just a weekend type of thing. Okay. Possibly just Thursday through Monday. Yeah.
I like what, the lawyer was saying about what do we want for our citizens, what do the citizens want? And we don't have to come up with the ordinance, we leave that for the professionals to do that. We need something between, what we don't want is people storing their vehicles on the roadway. Or their trailers on the roadway. What we do want is people to be able to use their property the way they want to use it. So I think and we want to make sure that it stays safe for our citizens, and there's emergency access for. So those are the things we want, right? We need something more reasonable than 30 minutes of unintended trailers. And if 72 hours isn't enforceable, what is enforceable? What is the time frame that is enforceable? I don't know. Maybe that's something that you guys can tell us, like, what's enforceable.
When you add the time on those trailers, that's the hard part that becomes enforceable, because when you say 24 hours, they take and move that trailer around the block, then their 24 hour starts again. So they get to hour 22, they take and move the trailer around the block, then they're 24 hours again. So then at what point That's why when we're saying unenforceable, is somebody who just say, here, we go to trailer, we've been here for 24 hours, no, I moved it last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, moved it around the block, and like 24 hours starts all over.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's what got us to where we're at now, is we had 2 neighbors that were doing that essentially to tie up parking spots, and they were just moving every 24 or every 72. That's when the city turned it that time, like, your 72 hours, basically, is unenforceable, because you guys don't, unless you're gonna watch that vehicle there for 24 solid hours. You're just gonna have to take their word, and, you know, and then that's what triggered, with Kelly Pearson and, Councilor Williamson and we have been just taking the stance, as long as you've been actively unloading and loading your trailers, we leave you alone. We've had instances where we've had to come in and tell people to move their trailers, because they're parked on the sidewalk or they're parked the wrong direction. You know, those are the kind of things that we're worried about, but there was an ordinance, I don't know, did you, Mayor, pass that ordinance around that we got the other night, that email? Has that gone to the council members?
No.
The mayor created one last night that we were gonna look at. I just got an email today on that. We were gonna present towards a pretty good ordinance. We might have to adjust the 2448, but it further lays out what you can and can't do as contractors and things like that. That gives them that freedom, but it's one of those things, if you start creating exceptions for one, you gotta create exceptions for other. The next thing you know, you got an ordinance with so many exceptions. It just becomes a pain to maneuver through, but we've got a lot of positive feedback about the trailers being off the streets, more on the streets and stuff like that. Garden and stuff, according to the property. We understand that parking is an issue. I mean, it is, these houses were built at that time. Not everybody had side-by-side four-wheelers, snowmobiles, you know, trailers. So we try to do very well. First, educate the public, talk about the city code. You know, I think we don't get compliance, that's when we'll start issuing citations, but I don't know how you're gonna get around it. My staff personally doesn't have the time to sit there and watch every single trailer that we come across, whether they've been there 24 or 48 or 72. So most of the time people come back from camping, they unload and they put their stuff away and they move. We really haven't had. So I don't know how you're gonna get around that with the 24. I mean, it just becomes, but again, with everything, there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna abuse. There's always gonna be somebody that's gonna abuse that code and play that game with us, you know, as part of movement.
Really feel everything together. Try to push it.
But I don't talk everything I do. And some of these streets, just with the current codes, we don't even have enough room on the side streets to allow a trailer, 2 trailers on each side of the street. That distance between the two, depending on how wide those trailers are, doesn't even do it. The city's gonna have to go and get that fire apparatus through that street. So, and then do we just start writing a wrong code with this street, no parking, this street, no parking, this street, no, I mean, most of these side streets over here. Andrew's new fire truck the ladder truck could even get out and have that with the outriggers. You know, if they needed to use that ladder truck for structure. So I think the safety is gonna outweigh sometimes the need for that parking. But this new ordinance, I think. The one that mayor had put out there, I think will alleviate a lot of that problem, as people worried about not being able to unload or contractors working. You know, it spells it out quite a bit what a contractor can do with the trailer. Certain things, so I think it's something you guys should take a look at, you know, before the next. Meeting. Like I said, the only thing that we've seen as far as for our department was at the time. I don't know what I don't know if Andrew's fully right to the code or not, you know, for fire and public works, but.
I don't know, the only. Andrew, fire chief, police police has a lot of good points on, fire trucks, ambulances, stuff like that, being able to get down the streets, and Buell has a very diverse streets. Some are nice and wide, others are narrow. You have two cars parked on either side. You're not getting through. And I would hate to see all over streets because now we're parking wider vehicles. But in the same sense, I don't know if we can. It's up to you guys to figure out. If we have to eliminate some of the streets. It's just not big enough, you're not parking your Greyhound bus there. Cause motorhomes are as big as a Greyhound bus, and when I kind of wrote the little one, you know, what I was thinking ideas, cause I received a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, text messages. So I just kind of combined it all into what I sent you.
Yeah, it was written, I mean, it's written pretty good, and it allows the contractor, businesses and some of the contractors, if there's parking available, park a trailer on the property while you're doing your work. If there's none, then you're allowed to park on the street. And it allowed for the unloading and loading and activating the, you know, the trailers being remain hooked up to the vehicle and stuff. So I mean, it was written out pretty good, but then on some of the stuff that Andrew brought up, you know, this morning, department meeting, some of his equipment, I mean, fire engine is a lot bigger now than it was in the 70s and 80s or even the 60s. And, you know, when he puts out his full outrunners on that ladder truck, that's outrunners gang to take out the whole street gang they're off to support that ladder truck and what they need to do. And we've had a fire at the apartment complex, I think we had, what, 2 ladder trucks? We had Fuels and Twins out here fighting that fire, and that's so,
So the code is 20 feet if the building is under 30
yeah.
feet tall. And 26 feet wide if the building's over 30 feet wide, so the 26 feet is for a building over 30 feet wide, so that should accommodate downriggers. I'm not so concerned about setting downriggers on a residential street with smaller sized homes. But even maintaining 20-foot width is gonna be pretty difficult on a lot of streets. So that's my main concern. So just going off code is 20 feet and 26 feet. And, as a citizen, I don't like the idea of trailers being parked on the streets. So, but I do want people that run business out of their trailers to be able to park at a customer's house and operate out of the trailer. But I think they can already do that, right? So.
I agree, Andrew.
I mean, you know, some of these tree line streets, if you got a cargo trailer, whether 9 foot or 10 foot wide, you got one on each side. You're already taking up half to 3/4 of that street with just 2 trailers, the truck park each side, and if you get in there. You know, they're just not wide streets in some of the tree lines.
Yeah, correction, trailers are not 120 inches wide, your lanes are 120 inches wide, trailers are ID and OD are not 10 feet wide, so you need to check your measurements. Thank you.
So they make as narrow as 6 feet, as wide as 10 feet, right?
Not recreational trailers.
All recreational.
It's like shared, I was thinking it's like shared slide outs out.
So I don't really want to get into a big discussion about this today.
I didn't even want to open my mouth, sorry, I'll wait until next week.
Yeah, on our regular council meeting next week, we'll have open comment. I encourage you to get your information together.
Oh, I got it,
We'll give you time to speak that time. Work for you?
we're ready, yeah, I'm ready for it.
I think what we're trying to do here is just voice, we've got a lot of information, email wise, and this is the only time we really get to discuss this as a council. So if we could, anything you guys have to say, let's share the information with each other.
Yeah, I don't want to park on the road all the time either, you know, so. But I just love everything you're putting in this.
No, little code last night, I sent it to you, Corbin, and I was in the middle of looking, and I got distracted, my phone went dead. So, it's basically kind of in code format. because the AI would adjust everything to fill in all the spots. When it changed one thing, it would change it everywhere. Maybe we could take something like that and go through it and take it up, and you guys can. We might get this resolved.
Yeah, I would have appreciated that email sent to all of us.
Yeah, my bad, I didn't have it on my computer, but on my phone, and I didn't have your email address, so.
It's on the city website.
I just put it on my phone, so, and I went bed.
So I think about the ordinance that we have in the parking ordinance, just locally in the downtown area. And there is an ordinance that it's like 2 hour parking, never. And about once every 2 years, I get a letter from the city saying, reminding me of the ordinance. And it's never been like and I never would take it in, it's just like hey, be a good neighbor. In case you forgot, basically.
Yeah.
This is the ordinance. And like, I appreciate that letter, and I think, as far as ordinances go, are we trying to write tickets or inform people to be a good neighbor and hey, like, we understand you're not breaking the ordinance. You got 2 trailers parked next to each other on these wide roads. But we can't access emergency vehicles through here. Is that something we could just send them a letter and be like, hey, you're not breaking the ordinance today, not being a very good neighbor right now.
Well, that's, our first one is try to educate the public. I mean, it's like, Portland, when we set up there, when we were dealing with, you know, we have an ordinance with 10 vehicles on properties and stuff, and we sent out a letter basically asking, is this feasible still, or does this need to be revamped, you know? And that's kind of our approach, is that educational approach, is we'll send a letter, and then if we can't be in compliance, then we have to go to the next step. As we're revamping some of these codes, coming across them, we try to reach out to the people, and I mean, we reached out to your business, Berrigan's, and a couple other local businesses. So as we were looking at that, we didn't want to penalize the business owner for having more than 10 cars for waiting for parts and stuff. But we have this code that says this, what do you guys as business owners think is
That includes manufacturing employees.
you know, what do you as a business owner think is important and is a sufficient amount of vehicles? And let us know so that we can present this ordinance back to council and say, hey, we got this in conflict, we got these business owners with these. Let's come together and redo this, because that ordinance was written in the 70s. You know, and I know business owners do way more, the mechanics do way more than just 10 cars then. So that's our approach at the PD. We'd like to try to educate as much and try to get them in compliance. We started out, even with the weeds. We start with the letter, or we start with the notice of authority, and then we'll come back and still know compliance and enforce the ordinance, so. But we try every once in a while, when we start noticing that the 2 hour parking becomes a problem, we just try to send local business letters saying, hey, yeah, just remember that, you know, 2 hour parking. So you guys send that out.
Yeah, I had to get some more information this morning, but I didn't know how wide between vehicles there was, and I had a lot of placeholders in that.
Did anybody else receive any emails? Or I didn't get any emails. So.
I haven't gotten any, I don't think Kansas City had any.
I got one. Me. Thank you. Yeah, it actually went to junk and main, so I was going through the other day. I sent it to everybody, sir. Yeah, I went into the junk, you know, and I just got it over the weekend next week. Didn't get it, thank you. Yeah, I sent it to you next morning after the meeting. Right away.
I got it, it was in my chat too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. hard to get emails when it all goes to junk.
I agree.
I did exactly what you people asked. And it went unanswered.
Oh, we can't. Fine.
Doesn't give you a notification, or just checking it over there.
Well, council, what do you guys? What's our next step? What do you guys want to do?
Well, my understanding this was just a discussion. But how, we can't go to a public hearing immediately because that's just costing money. And that's just, if we, change a little bit and then have a public hearing and then change a little bit, like that's continually costing taxpayer money. So I think that these discussions are good and I think that, for our next council meeting, if we get that email, we get some more information, I think we'll be. But I wanna have detailed conversations with you to make sure that we do it right for our public phone.
Yeah, good. Or it, or I'll send a copy to you. Now that I can fix the, couple of numbers that I did not, Andrew this morning.
This is pretty good. I mean, it says continuous parking, moving vehicle within one block radius to an hour, set time limits. Achieved by the code, unlicensed expired uninsured vehicles are strictly prohibited. Can't weigh more than 12,000 pounds. No worry, relocation upon receipt of a legitimate complaint regarding a blocked driveway or obstructed visibility. The vehicle or trailer must be moved immediately, cannot be repositioned to restore safely. Can't park in blind spots with vehicles, can't see around it. Which should be like this. The vehicle or trailer should block or partially obstructing the driveway. Public safety and access take precedence over the allowed time limits. Safety, visibility, and complaint based removal. Long ag, characteristics of the important for very staging or transport. 2 hours. Not exceed 30 feet. More vans and self-propelled motorhomes are subject to 30 feet. And then go downtown. Parking shall not exceed 48 hours. So very much. Definitely get that and go over it. It's. I agree.
And I, is it, and it's not just trailer, right? Isn't this code involve parking by fire, parking too close to intersections? Isn't it all the same? In the same code?
That's in the chapter one. Has a different section.
Is this including the utility trailers, the little small ones that's 6 by 12 flat beds and stuff, is that in that?
Yeah.
It's all true.
Well, what's gonna happen when everybody starts parking on the easement between their sidewalk and back or curb for their travel trailers? And it's just over, out of the street, is that gonna happen, or is that something that needs to be discussed and figured out by the next meetings? So that you don't have to come back and reevaluate that later.
Are you talking like those easements on?
Yeah, is there an ordinance already? I mean, no, just like right over here at Locke, there's like a motor home and stuff just right off the street in between the sidewalk and gutter.
I know the point that code's gonna address that.
You guys, yeah, if you wanna discuss any of this. All of us are willing to. We just. I don't wanna have it get out of hand and.
No, but it needs to be discussed now,
Discuss it.
before the next meeting, so you know that that's what's gonna be brought up, how we wanna handle that.
The best way to do that is email. And we'll check our compass time.
You know, now, problem with parking, I got plenty of parking in my backyard, you know, or in the back, but you know, other people,
Some
so.
people don't.
I don't know, Bill, is there anything on that?
No,
Is there an ordinance?
not on the easements.
I gotcha.
That's why people actually do that.
Yeah, that's why I see some people on Broadway, they gravel that section, there's some that gravel, they can remove part of the front yard.
Yes, exactly.
And there's, not that I know of, unless there's something in planning and zoning, but we'll have to check with Jasmine on that as far as city code. Cause there are several people that do that, they park on. It's off the streets, so that, and that's what we were.
Yeah, is it presenting problem if they park there or?
It's, not usually, I mean, most of them far enough off the easement, as long as, the only time we've ran into is like if they're on that easement, there's like a speed limit sign that's in that easement. Then we would probably, you know, they'd probably have to move at that point because they're blocking that speed limit sign. That was, cause some of the signs for the students aren't 211 foot yet where they're supposed to be, so.
I think if there's a city code on that where parking areas better be gravel, I think there is.
Yeah, but I think it's under the plan, it's more of a planning zoning, I'd have to double check on
And
that.
that's more or less, so you're not tracking mud out on, right, like, when you pull out your dirt, you know. And blocking signs and all that. There's so many codes over that other code, so you will get this, but now you're errors. That's what we really gotta watch, want any of that when this is done.
Parking vehicles and roads of inventory use.
Which we need to adjust those other codes to allow for some of this other, have to. Put that in this amendment, so we're only doing one other here now, just that. Just the other codes that you need.
Like Marlo said, we should keep doing this. Until we get more weather. This one,
Yeah, it was January, all that, we can find out, not parking in the. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Mayor.
alright, so the next is, comments, we need to make sure that we comply with the law. In regards to employee privacy issues, if a member of city council would like to discuss any issues pertaining to complaints. Discipline of a city employee, those will first need to be discussed with the mayor, who is the chief city administrator for Article 50-602. After review of the complaint, discipline, etc. If it needs to go before city council, it will be listed under executive session on the upcoming meeting agenda. Your comments on anything? Other than,
Yeah, I do, I was looking into, because we only have public comment at one meeting, and so I think it would be a good idea to have public comment at all meetings. I'm not really sure what the history was there, but I think that more people are coming, and I think that if they show up to a meeting, then they should be able to have, you know, a comment at the end. So I think that I just sent, the rules for city council, so next meeting, I'll add that in there and you guys can see if you like it, and we can move forward with that.
July 1st, it's mandatory.
Good, yeah. Well, I mean, we could
Jump
give
on.
them a couple months to.
No, I agree.
So that
I think
was.
it's not, I, I guess. 250, how's that going?
So for that grant, we need, my understanding is that we need an idea and a plan in order to submit for the grant. So we've had some ideas thrown around, but then there hasn't been really like a,
Oh,
yeah. So I think that's where, if, I mean, I'm happy to take that on, but I also, I don't know that I necessarily have the bandwidth right now to do it. And so if that's something like your idea with the high school and getting, I mean, I think that that was, you know, a good idea, that everybody liked that idea. And so maybe if someone could spearhead going to the school and seeing if that's something that they'd be, you know, willing to kind of incorporate, I don't. Yeah. And then, once we have kind of a plan in place, then we can submit for the grant. I don't think that they'll award a grant without kind of a plan. So, or if there's other ideas,
I don't know, that would take us to $2,500 to
yeah,
know how you would use that.
With the chamber and use one of their ideas they're already doing. To help fund some of the stuff going on.
potentially,
And what
potentially.
that's an option would be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I mean, just help some of the funding, with some of the stuff that they have going on.
yeah, I'll look at what the. Cause there's also certain requirements, like you can't pay people with it, you can't do, you know, that kind of stuff, and so, but I can, yeah, I can. It would be Sarah, or who would I reach out to?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Call her through.
okay. Just kind of see maybe what they're doing, and if something was.
Yeah, we can.
Oh.
Go with them, you
Mhm.
track along with them.
Yeah, I'd like to see more, I can see, what is it, April 17th is the day that Bill's founded. See, I used to that, celebrate our little town.
April 17th.
Yeah, it's just, days.
What do you know about Gates then? You don't know yet?
He's got a lot of stuff from around the area, just waiting for the go ahead. A lot of interesting information from fuel. Mostly good, some of the uses of the older buildings in town, kind of strange, but funny, but hey, that's where history. Okay. Good to go.
Thank you,
Or,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
all in favor?
Thank
Thank you, guys.
I cannot say.